so trapping. All the way from north to south, it's been a long time coming.
Alright, g'day folks, and welcome back to the Custom Chopper channel. We're here with the absolutely wonderful and lovely Jaimi and her beautiful ride.
Which doesn't have a name.
We don't have a name, we've just been talking about that off camera, but I'm going to jump out and come around. So, I just come in a little bit tighter. There we go. So thanks very much for coming out and joining us today.
Pleasure.
So, tell us a little bit about yourself. So how long you've been riding? Is this? Let's backtrack.
Yep.
All right. So, make and model.
Yep, 2014 Dyna Street Bob. It's the old school version with the cooler suspension.
The cooler suspension. I like that. Cool.
I've had her since 2018. So
Yep.
yeah, coming on 5 years now. Before that, I started on the Street 500, so the Harley Davidson loaner bike that had not long come out,
Yep.
which was a very fun bike, but you want a bit more power pretty quickly once you've spent some time in the saddle.
So how did you find that transition going from the 500 up to this?
I thought it was going to be more overwhelming, and it's obviously a way heavier bike, and also I'm only tiptoeing when I'm on it, so I was also concerned about the height and things like that, but I mean, they're so well balanced, and as soon as you're going, like, you get pretty comfortable pretty quickly, and I knew that it was just going to be time in the saddle. So when I bought it, it had 14-inch like straight T-bars, so I was literally like this trying to ride it at the start. So until I changed the handlebars, it was definitely a bit sketchy. Mostly parking is what used to get me, like trying to park it and maneuver from up here, but yeah, it came more naturally than I expected, I think.
We'll do a walk around the bike in a second, and so you've had her now for
about 5 years.
About 5 years. Yep. And have you done a lot of modifications during that time?
Not heaps. It had a fair few stuff done before I actually bought it, and it was like freshly done as I bought it. A guy before me had sold it as, so it was actually a special, so it had like that maroon and silver tank and things like that, and the shop that bought it blacked everything out, which it was, you know, that had my heart immediately once they blacked a whole lot of it out. I did things like the wheels, the seat, the exhaust, all the usual stuff. Chucked the fairing on. There was a quarter fairing on it originally, which I didn't love, and we found this big beefy thing to chuck some big beefy speakers in, which was great.
Sweet.
Yeah, just little accessories.
She's a beautiful looking girl.
Yeah.
So what got you into riding in the first place?
I used to four-wheel drive a fair bit, used to camp heaps, and just liked being amongst it, like, you know, feeling like the sunroof was up, feeling the breeze, smelling the smells, hearing the birds, and I started feeling like I wanted a bit more of that. Just with my driving life, I drove a lot for work, and I just felt like I wanted to be out of a car when I was on the bitumen, so I kind of just went for it. I didn't actually know anyone that rode at the time, so I did my lessons. I had a random old friend who I used to catch the school bus with, who lived in Brisbane, come down a couple of times and ride with me.
Cool.
Yeah, because I didn't really know what I was doing, but I just knew I wanted to be amongst it, and it felt good. Awesome.
And now that you've been riding for a number of years now, and as a female rider, do you find you get treated any differently by other male riders or other female? How do you find that whole experience?
Huge level of appreciation, which I didn't expect. At the start, I feel like there's a few people who are like, oh, be careful, oh, do this, oh, do that, you know, which I think comes from a place of concern because they maybe grew up around people who, you know, didn't have confidence or something like that, so they were holding a bit of that baggage with themselves. But mostly I've had people, you know, big thumbs up, people love this helmet, get lots of comments on my helmet. People are like, you know, what's the next ride, when are you doing this? I actually led a bunch of group rides for a few years, and all sorts of walks of life would rock up, and we just have a really good chin wag and share experiences. So yeah, there was a way stronger community than I expected to be sort of sucked into.
Yep.
Which was great.
We have to address the elephant in the room. Talk us through this, because this has got to be one of the coolest helmets I've seen in a while.
Right.
What, where, how, the backstory? Give us a story.
So it's built well Gringo,
yep.
but it is the American version. which technically wasn't approved in Australia at the time of purchase. You can edit that
It
part
is
out.
now. We can chuck
It
that.
is now. It is now. Yeah, I was just looking for a fun helmet, really. I was like, I have an all black bike, like, you know, give me something a little bit extravagant.
Yep.
And I'd been hunting for glitter, but I didn't love the golds and the maroons and things like that. And this showed up on the scene in the States on a website that I bought a lot of stuff from. And yeah, immediately I was like,
That was going to be my next question. Like, did you buy this in Australia? So you
no.
bought
But they do
from the
sell them in
States?
Australia now.
Yes, because I was in, and for the folks from overseas who may not recognise it, that in the background is actually the Gold Coast in Queensland. I was in Gold Coast Harley yesterday, and that's the first time I've seen, is it Bitwell?
Built well, yeah.
Bitwell.
Yep.
Gringo.
Yes.
Was the brand. But
Yep.
they had a really funky blue and gold.
I've got a seafoam colour. I've got a few helmets.
Oh,
We've
you
all
got
got
a
a
few.
few helmets. Come on.
That's so cool. I love the helmet. So what about touring? Have you done any long rides, or do you have any
Yeah,
plans?
we've done like some overnight stuff. One of the first things I did was still when I was on my, not my learners, but like my restricted. And I actually went down to the Great Ocean Road in Melbourne. So I was down in Melbourne for work. I tacked on a bit of leave, and I actually hired a Street 500 and did the Great Ocean Road on it.
So because I get quite a few overseas viewers here
Mm-hmm.
who may not be familiar with the Australian geography.
Mm-hmm.
So that's on my bucket list. So can you explain us or talk through for someone not familiar what the Great Ocean Road is, where it is?
Yep, so it's down at the bottom end of Victoria, and it essentially follows the coastline, but very much you are on the coastline. You're riding on the top of cliffs, you are just following that geography around that section. You're looking at ocean down the bottom, and then there's a whole heap of bushland which gets quite tropical behind you. It's super like there's the 12 apostles, or the 4 apostles and the 8 lies, as they call them.
Yep.
There's only 4 left.
Yep.
So there's a few, like, really, you know, what do they call them? The World Heritage sites and stuff. There's plenty of it down there, but you're literally on cliff face, just following the ocean. You can smell the salty air, but there's, you know, you take a road, there's a particular road called Beach Road, and it's like you're in a tropical rainforest and there's rosellas flying right beside you, and then you're in like a redwood kind of forest, which looks like you might as well be in California. It's one of the most diverse areas I've been to.
Yep.
With such a short, I mean, geographically, realistically, it's quite a short space, so quite a short ride to get those different experiences. So, yeah, it's a bucket list thing. People travel all the way to Australia just to do it, like in a car, but yeah, on a bike, it was a whole nother level. Stayed in a teepee. There's some fun little Airbnbs down there, so
Sweet.
had some really cool experiences doing that.
What would be the ride time from start to finish for the Great Ocean Road, that section, the really touristy, the windy, nice part?
You'd want about 3 days to do it, so it depends how far you go. I went a little bit past Apollo Bay. I stayed there, and like you just sort of take a few days just so you can really lap it up, because there's a lot of roads that you will want to ride at sunrise and you want to ride them at sunset. Like, it'll be a totally different experience.
That's so cool. I never thought of that.
3 days.
Picking the time of day to actually do it. Yeah, especially I can see it now.
Yep.
I'll see if I can drop in a picture or something.
Yep.
That would be quite
I've
magical.
got a few I could probably find and send you.
Okay, send them
Spots.
across.
Yep.
All right, sweet. Let's do a walk around the bike, and we'll have a look at what you've done, and give us a bit of a tour. So let's do that.
Sure thing.
Get up and have a look. Okay, so come in nice and tight for me. Let's come down. So, again, make and model.
2014 Dyna Street Bob,
Yep.
Harley Davidson.
Yep.
Blacked out a whole heap of stuff, but I guess the things that were done, like forks and things, were blacked out. The tanks were blacked out. It already had like the Screaming Eagle air filter, had a different exhaust, but had a post-market one, which we did a stage 1 tune on. So we basically refined that a little better, got a little bit beefier. That's the 103 because it's the older model.
Yep.
Put lots of stickers on them, make you go
Yeah,
way
so-
faster.
Yeah, I was going to say, can you talk us through the stickers?
Fast House is a couple of these are just brands. Moto Social is actually a really cool initiative on the coast. Hasn't happened as much since COVID standard, but that was like a locally run, just like moto meetups and swap meets and things like that, which were really fun to go to, which I got to be a part of.
Yep.
Built Well, that's just the brand. Of the helmet. Iron and Resin is a very hot spot. If you are local to the Gold Coast or have travelled up here bike-wise, you will probably hit up Iron and Resin Garage, which sells the best freaking food on the planet.
Cool.
Team Gav is a very fun Instagram page that just rips on people who totally trash themselves trying to ride bikes, basically.
All right, I have to look that one up. Cool.
Sheila's Shakedown. Cannot talk more highly of Sheila's Shakedown. So that is a all-females camp-out weekend event that is held in Melbourne. Well, it's actually held in Victoria, a few hours out of Melbourne.
Okay, cool.
And they run it every year. Just a few girls started it because they, did a little bit of a barbecue out the back of their ute by a creek one day on the bikes, thought it was great, opened it up to more people, and now like hundreds of people go every year.
So have they got an Instagram
They
profile?
sure do.
So what's their Instagram handle?
I think it's just at Sheila's Shakedown.
So that's at Sheila's Shakedown.
Yeah.
Right, so for people, I'll drop the links in the description below for those who might be interested in that, because that sounds awesome.
Yeah, and you don't have to ride to go there either. It's one of
really?
those things that like
All
vintage
inclusive.
bikes go, just if you're interested in riding, you get to see a whole heap of them there, and you get some really cool friends out of it, really.
Now, back down on the swing arm back here, we've got something that says
Corrupt Custom. So they, that's the company I bought the bike from. They had basically done it up to a degree, and then I got them to do the rest of the work too. So they have been absolutely amazing. Their servicing is mint. They have a pickup service, which has been fantastic in the past for me. So they'll drive out in a van and get you if they need to.
So we'll give them a plug. So that's Corrupt Customs, and that's on the Gold Coast here?
It is, yep, just in Nerang.
In Nerang. So come around to the front. So we've got a front fairing on.
This is the Russ Wernimont Designs one. It's a little bit similar to the Memphis Shades, but it's beefier, it's deeper, so we could fit better speakers in there, which was one of the things we wanted out of it, because we found that we did all this with Corrupt as a little bit of a project, so we found that the speakers that were made
come
for
in
the
a little
Memphis
bit tighter,
stand-
and let's have a look under here, because this is pretty cool. I'll see if I can get the lighting.
So these are actually jet ski and boat speakers, so we wanted to get some marine grade stuff in there.
Seriously,
That's
a good idea.
We wanted some proper bass, so we actually put some spacers behind them because they were too deep for the fairing themselves, but we didn't want to compromise on sound. So the guys came up with that little fix for me, which was great. I've got a little plug here, so I can actually plug my phone in and charge it as I'm riding, which is great for the long rides. If you're doing big touring things, then you can just whack it on here and plug it in, and music's on, GPS if you need it. But I also have the ability to control my speaker from there. Legend suspension here. The Legend suspension is probably one of my favourite upgrades done on this bike. Their suspension, it has just been such a game changer for the rideability. Way smoother, handled way nicer in corners. You can adjust it to your needs, which being short and not as heavy as most people that ride bikes. It just basically took a bit of the stiffness out of it. So I got them on the rear as well.
What do you got going on this side here?
So that's just a cover, so it's just a different horn cover.
That's your horn cover. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, a little bit of Darth Vader vibe.
Yeah.
These MX pegs, these are super sick. I wanted to do them so early on. They also happen to have a bottle opener built in, which is great.
That's always super
Always
handy.
important.
Always important. Priorities.
Yeah, but otherwise the rest of this side is pretty much stock stuff. I mean, suspension obviously.
Yep. So what do you got going on the bottom of your suspension? So you can actually dial it by hand.
You can dial it in, so you can, depending on height. So these ones, they're around 12 inch, so I am, definitely tiptoeing a little bit more, like it actually lifted the bike a bit, which I was concerned about, but as soon as I sit in and it's softened up a little bit, I could get some sort of purchase on the ground, but it just rides so much nicer. So definitely a suspension upgrade is probably one of the first things I'd spend my money on if I was to give that advice to anyone. For me, I needed pullback handlebars because I couldn't reach, being a little bit shorter. These aren't really designed for a smaller body. So pullback handlebars here, so we've got the lean back towards me and then like an MX bar on the top. So again, I get a little bit, it pulls towards me a little bit further, so it's a little bit less reachy. One of the things, if you have small hands, like most women and plenty of men do as well, this little indicator extender has been a game changer. Yep. I would basically have to take my hand off the throttle to put my indicator on previously, but now with that little extender there, I don't have to move at all. So that was just something from eBay, but particularly if you're a smaller rider like me, pull back handlebars and this little extension is...
That's wicked cool.
Yeah, very big change.
It's a beautiful bike.
Yeah.
Well, Jaimi, I'd like to say a big thank you for dropping by and dropping in.
Thank you. Thanks for the ride this morning.
Yes, it was awesome. And give us a thumbs up if you like the video. Please, I'll drop in all the links to all the socials and everyone down below. Please hit that subscribe button to help support the channel. It's greatly appreciated. But most of all, safe riding, stay upright, and have a wonderful day. Thanks, Jaimi.
Fun!
Wicked!